Happy Wednesday, friend. It is so good to see you. I hope you have been having an amazing start to the week. And let me just tell you right now, your week is about to get even better. If you haven't already, say hi in the chat. Let us know where you're coming in from. I wanted to say a big hi to Jen and Anya and Prince and Dunk and Raul and Jeff. Man, we have a lot of great people joining us. And I can see that Jeff already has a ton of questions ready to go. That's what we like to hear because you have a seat at this table too. If you were looking for some dry interview where I get to ask all the questions and you get to sit back and relax, you came to the wrong place, my friend, because you are an active part of this conversation. If you do want to relax, hey, that's fine. Kick up your seat. Maybe it's been a long week. But if you feel like getting in the game, that is what the chat box is for. You can ask questions as well to our amazing guest. And boy, oh boy, did we really score today. As you know, I always love to have people join us that I feel can really come in, teach us a lot, let us steal some of their best tips and tricks and tactics so that we can implement it in our everyday lives. Hopefully you did your Google stalking before this. So hopefully David and Jim and Rick and Grace, hopefully you guys did your Google stalking on my good friend Tia, because holy moly, is there a lot to stalk. I'll give you kind of the Cliff Notes version. If you didn't have time to stalk her before this, there are plenty of podcasts that kind of give that overview, that 101 of everything that Tia has built. But we are skipping all of that overview and we're getting right into the good stuff. But the overview is that Tia runs the world's largest group of freelancing females. This is something that was born out of a need that she saw in the marketplace, and it has grown as others like her say, hey, that sounds like me too. I'm a freelancer and I have questions that I hope other freelancers can help me answer. She has grown this community. I mean, these numbers boggle my mind. Over 60,000 people in their Facebook group, over 250,000 people on Instagram following along, and between their newsletters and their active communities, they post hundreds of jobs a week that freelancers can capitalize on, get jobs through, and also learn to negotiate to make, let's say it, music to our ears, more money. The crowd goes wild. So that is something that I think we can all agree would be pretty great for all of us. So wherever you are in the world, I know Ellen is coming in from Townsend, and we have Grace coming in from Rochester. Rick and I are coming in from good old Austin, Texas. But I hope wherever you are, you will raise your glass or mug or cup or whatever container it is that is holding the beverage of your choice, and welcome Tia to join us for coffee.
I also have my beverage with me, all prepared today. Thank you so much. That was a beautiful introduction.
Well, it's good to see you.
You too. I've missed you.
I know. I'm so excited that you're joining us today because I feel like you have such wisdom and knowledge and everything just trapped in your brain. And I'm really excited for you to spill it all for us.
Let's get it out there.
I love it. So I'm just curious, for you, when you are thinking about the current state of freelancers, I feel like we've heard a lot about whether you want to call it the great resignation or the great reshuffle. But I feel that lately I've had a lot of friends who have left corporate jobs who are now sort of finding their groove as a consultant or a freelancer, whatever syntax or word you want to put on it. They're out in the world making money. Have you seen with your community over the last 2 years a big shift or influx in new people coming in?
Yes. So we have grown like crazy since March 2020 when the pandemic originally started. We've seen such an influx of women and, people from all around the world who have either decided, I have had time. I've really rethought about what my values are, and this is what I want to do for the future. Or we've had a lot of moms who have been at home and they decided like freelance is flexible and this is important to me. So we've had people in all different situations start coming in. And, there are layoffs and everything that have really pushed more people towards the freelance world. I was a layoff 5 years ago, which is what started my freelance career. So it's, forever changing. But I think right now is really, from 5 years ago, freelance was just something that people didn't really think about. And now it's, one of the number one things that people are going towards.
And I'm curious for you, I mean, especially with this new influx coming in, you must be sort of like palm face emoji, seeing some of those same mistakes where you're like, no, not again. What are some of those palm face moments that you're just like, oh, don't do that, whatever that is?
Not asking questions before you start, like talking to different people around you. What are you best at? Not also adding to, I can do everything. Do not start with that. Niche down as much as you can. I was one of those people. I was one of those people who was like, I am now a social media consultant. But if you come to me and you want a website and this and this and this and this, I can do it for you. It drives so much burnout so quickly. So niching down is one of the things that I always recommend first and foremost, choosing what you're most passionate about and kind of sticking to it. But, also giving yourself the ability to pivot as you kind of start your freelance career, because when you're in a 9 to 5, you don't question so much. You really have this path of trajectory. And with freelance, you have the ability to kind of create an entire job around your passion. We have such unique types of freelance roles that people have created. And it's so exciting to see what people are doing with it. So it really is like you can create a job doing anything if you're really good at it.
Well, let's say that someone has taken your advice. They're like, okay,
Okay.
Tia, check, check, check. I'm not going to be sort of a generalist. I'm really going to niche down. And they niche down into something very, very specific. So, not just like,
Yeah.
this is just an example, not like I make all websites, but I only make Squarespace websites. That is my specialty. That is sort of my sweet spot. I know everything there is about creating Squarespace websites. And then to Arissa's point, they sort of know they're really good at it. They've started it, but they don't have any case studies, or they don't have any feedback, or if they're using one of these online platforms, they don't have any reviews. What's a good way to start if you don't really have those awesome case studies to say, like, look at these 10 amazing Squarespace I built?
Yeah. So one of the biggest things is really tapping into the people that you know and creating the work that you want to be hired for. So say you decide to go become a poster maker, but you don't have any designs in your portfolio. Doesn't mean that you can't just design a beautiful poster and put it into your portfolio sites. And you now have the work that you've created that you want to sell to potential clients. You have a beautiful portfolio. What do you do with it? Not all of us have thousands of followers on social media, and you really don't need to. If you can be off social media as much as possible, I'm a huge fan of that too. So, telling people that you're available for work is one of the biggest mistakes that people make. It's, one of the simplest, but also one of the hardest, because I know a lot of freelancers, they get everything ready and then they're like, no clients have come to me. And I said, well, did you tell anybody that you're available? So just posting first and foremost to your Facebook page, your Instagram, your LinkedIn, and then telling the people who you've worked with in the past that you're now available for work in that certain niche is really important. And then there's so many really wonderful sites that you can post your offerings to. Working Not Working, Freelancing Females, we have our own directory. There's directories for illustrators specifically. There's so many great ways that you can get your work out there into the world to start getting those clients.
Well, and I would build on what you just said and also add something that I tell people all the time is you also have to keep reminding people. Like you can't just
Yes.
say one time on April 5th, like, I am open for business. I don't know what I ate for lunch last week. So if you expect me to remember that 5 weeks ago you said that you build Squarespace sites, I've already forgotten. So I always tell people, whatever communication, whether that's newsletter or Instagram or Facebook or however you can kind of shout out to the world what it is you're doing. I would dare say in the beginning, I mean, I love your opinion on this, Tia, but I always tell people like once a month, like
Oh
just kind
yeah.
of keep ringing that bell, being like, still here, still doing this
Keep
thing
it.
over here.
Yes. No amount of marketing is too much for yourself, especially when you're starting out and keeping it fresh in other people's minds. They're not always thinking, oh, Tia is available for work. But if you tell them, once a month, hey, I'm looking for a new client, then they know if they're referring somebody that they're going to be referring you because you're fresh in their mind, always thinking about it. And it's not annoying to anyone. It's actually really helpful because I know the friends who right now are looking for specific jobs so that if something comes up, I'm happy to refer them.
Exactly. And you want to refer friends. That's like the
Yeah.
ultimate referral is you're like, hey, I got a guy. They can help you with that. No problem.
Yes, exactly.
If you have somebody, to Jeff's point, that you're like, okay, I got a client on the hook. Maybe they're one of my first clients. I'm reeling them in. How do you figure out what you initially charge? So that's kind of the first part of the question. And the second is, which I feel like is sort of like this amorphous topic that we could talk about for hours, is when do you know to charge more? Or when do you know to
Mm.
keep leveling up?
Okay, so let's start off with the first question because there's so many different ways to figuring out how you want to charge. And first and foremost, I would have a goal in your head of this is what I want to make this year. Another thing that a lot of freelancers make mistakes on is how much money you need to set towards taxes, about 30%. And thinking about you are now, paying for all of your softwares, paying for your computer, paying for everything out of pocket. So you really need to add all of these extras to your freelance rates. But how I go about helping our freelancers figure out what to charge is for one, we have a rate sheet on freelancing females, which is really helpful. We have about 9,000 people who have been completely transparent about what they charge per hour, per project. So that's a really great place to start. But it
Yeah.
also changes by industry, by job, and there's so many different types of jobs. So do not be afraid to ask fellow friends, fellow Facebook groups, what are you charging for this type of a project and role to really get a sense because you need to be confident in your rates when you're marketing them so you can know what industry standards are so that you can then go and say this is normal. And then you have your rate, you've broken it down, you're very confident in selling yourself. That's amazing. So now you're getting these clients and you're getting paid well and you're really happy about it. But when is the right time to start thinking about, oh, I need to up my rates? Well, everybody gets a raise once a year at work. So I would be giving yourself a raise at least once a year. And that is a whole conversation you should have with your clients that you already have. But when should you start charging more? Almost every client you get. So, if you start at $50 an hour and you're bringing on another client, you can add $55 an hour. And if your client roster is getting really full, that means you're not charging a lot. And if people aren't questioning that your rates are too high, you're not charging enough because you should shoot for the stars and then, you can always negotiate your rates a little bit with your clients. But once you have a few clients that are really helping you pay your salary, just keep going. And that's a great way to think about it.
Oh, 100%. And I always say something that like I used to always think about, even just in my marketing agency as we started to grow the business, is I always would really favor the clients that would give me referrals because there
Yes.
were always one or two clients that would just, I don't know, out of the goodness of their heart or whatnot, would say, you got to meet Kim. You got to meet my friend Kim. Oh, Kim has this great thing. And with those clients, I always kept in mind, okay, maybe I'm going to let their prices stay the same for a little bit longer because
Yeah.
they're benefiting me in other ways. And so I
You're
think that
making more
that's
money.
exactly, they're helping me make more money. And I don't love sales. Some people love sales. Some people are like peanuts, peanuts. Like they love selling their services. I'm not necessarily one of those people. So if my clients will do it for me, I'm kind of like, yeah, if you could just
Yeah.
refer me to more people, 2 thumbs up.
And if you know they're a great client, then you know that they most likely are referring you to somebody who's going to be really helpful, which I love because we have, those clients that are a little bit more of a red flag. And if you have a referral, you feel so much more comfortable starting off with a new client.
Exactly. And I think this point that Rebecca brought up is really interesting and creative. And I think it could go in a lot of different ways in terms of if you are working with startups or maybe newer companies that say, we understand that your retainer is $10,000 a month. We can't afford $10,000 a month. We can pay you $2,000 a month and give you equity or give you options in the company. Is that a discussion that you have a lot in freelancing females, or is a lot of your community working with startups, and do they take sort of alternative forms of payment? I forget who announced last week that they were going to start paying their employees in Bitcoin. I don't know, but is that a subject that has come up with you guys, like these alternative forms of
We
payment?
have, yeah. There's definitely been NFT, Bitcoin. This is all new to us. So we're really trying to navigate the whole system. But in my opinion, like I've worked for startups before who have offered equity and everything else. First and foremost, you need to get paid. You need to pay your bills. That's the most important thing. And you need to be happy with that number, or you're going to start regretting that client and it's not going to turn into the best relationship. All startups are going to try to sell you on equity, and some may succeed and you might have an amazing payout. But most likely, about, I don't know the exact number, a startup might not succeed in the way that you want it to. It might not IPO, and you might never see that equity come in. So I think, you always have to be thinking about yourself and being selfish when it comes to this stuff. Saying no to these clients if it's not the right fit, because you deserve to get paid for your work.
Exactly. I always say American Express does not take thank you as a payment.
No,
I've
they
tried.
do not.
I've tried to be
Every
like, but they're
other
really
place.
nice. No.
No, your plumber doesn't take it. Nobody else takes, if we do this, then so you shouldn't either.
Exactly. It
If you
won't
got
work.
paid in coffee, that wouldn't help.
That just wouldn't be good. If you were starting from scratch right now, knowing everything that you already know about the freelancing world, where would you start if you were, as of today, May 11th, going to become a consultant or a freelancer?
Ooh, that's a hard question. So where would we start in terms of platform, or where would we start in terms of like anything in general?
Both. Yeah,
Both? Okay.
all of the above.
Yes, yes. Yeah, so first, I would set out your values and what you're most interested in doing and what you're really good at. Because you don't want to
Mhm.
make a hobby a job and start to hate that too. Um, niche down into specific few industries, and then get really clear on your service offerings, because you need to be very confident in what you're selling. And I love package-based pricing. I don't like hourly rates because, the better you get at your job, the less time it takes. But you deserve to be getting paid more for that, not less. So create some beautiful packages for potential clients. And then you can always, talk to somebody and create a very specific package based on that client call. But it's really nice for them to kind of see an outline, and it also saves you a lot of time, because I used to, create a nice proposal with potential packages, and that would save me from a lot of meetings of them being like, we can't afford your services. And then you just wasted all this extra time where you could have been selling to potential clients who could actually do that. So that's some of the few ways. And then, educating yourself, like we just talked about, on market rates, asking friends, asking family, asking men and women what they're charging for the services. And then, defining what your ideal client looks like is really important to you. So say, like, Kim, who's your ideal client right now?
My ideal client would be a marketing manager at a brand.
That's awesome. Yeah.
That would be mine.
So see, that's your quick elevator pitch of exactly who you're looking for. So once you have your ideal client, you know exactly who you're marketing to, who you're selling to, and that's when you really start creating the work that you want to be paid to do. So whether that be putting together, a little portfolio site or adding it to LinkedIn, it's super important to get yourself out there. And then, if you do have the ability to start freelancing before you leave a 9 to 5 or something, get a few of those clients to backfill your pay if you can, if that's possible, which sometimes it isn't, and that's okay too. But once you do decide to quit your job, and a lot of people kind of love having the extra income along with the 9 to 5, I'd say a lot of people keep themselves in both way too long. But you should really try, once you have, a good amount of money just saved up for in case you lose a client and everything, quit that job and go full full-time freelance if you can. And that's when you start to shine. That's when it's super important. I have to make this much money to succeed in my freelance career. And that's when you start upping your prices too, because you have to make your rent and your bills. So you make sure that you're available for work, tell everybody that, and then you start up-leveling the skills that you've learned, and really educating yourself on extra ways that you can do your job better, and you have a whole freelance roster hopefully by then.
And then if you're in the process of really building up that freelance roster and building up your client base, and I know you had touched on earlier about making sure that it's a fit between you and the client, what are some good questions or just some good kind of 101 that you feel like, man, if you can only ask the client, 2 or 3 questions, these are the ones that I would really recommend that you ask them to figure out if it's a fit or not?
Yes. So I actually just saw that Jeff was saying personas is a huge way to understand your ideal client, and I really love that. We actually write out personas for our potential clients at Freelancing Females to understand the type of person we're looking for. But yeah, to your question, to find red flags is kind of hard. So definitely I completely agree upon getting on the phone with a client before you sign them, not doing it all over email, because you really want to see if your personality matches the client. And I love to chat through with them, my boundaries. And I have those boundaries and I put them in my contracts, because that's very important. The way you want to communicate with your client, how they feel about communicating in those ways. Are they okay with Slack? Are they okay with email? Are they okay that you only communicate with clients at a 9 to 5 basis unless it's an emergency? What do you ask your client, what do you see as an emergency type of situation? because that's a really good way to suss out if you think you're going to be getting a call from your client every other day. So, looking into their personality, seeing if you both work in the same type of a way is really important. And what are their values to their business are some of the ways that you can kind of suss out if this client has a few red flags. Also, if they start sending you a lot of emails before you even start, that's kind of a bit of a red flag. And I'm sure, Kim, you've had a lot of red flag clients. So are there a few that you've run into?
Absolutely. And I'm glad that Ellen brought it up because I used to have a lot of red flag clients and I would actually, we always do this, but especially in the beginning, once I did hit some of those red flag clients, I would always get deposits, always
It's
get deposits
so
from
important.
people. Now with clients, because there are clients that I've been working with now for 5, 6, 7 years, it's a little more lax because I have been working with them for 5 years and they know me and
You
I know
trust them.
them. So if they're a week late or 2 weeks late, I'm not gonna, freak out. But if it's someone that I don't know, like this is a stranger, this is somebody coming in, I'm getting a deposit. And we are not starting 1 ounce of work without that deposited because early in the, freelancing consulting career side for me,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I got burned. I got
Yeah.
burned by people who said the check's in the mail, oh, it's coming, and then check
Yeah.
never came. Check never came.
Funny you say that because Freelancing Females, I started it because of a non-payment issue. And I wasn't paid for my work for over a month of work. And then they gave me a fraudulent check in the mail. So it's so very important to take a deposit. I recommend 50% up front and then 50% upon delivery. So if you're about to deliver them some specific assets, make sure they pay. You can show them those assets, go through them in, a web meeting, but do not send them to them until they pay for it. And then you release the assets because we've had so many people burned by not getting paid. And you shouldn't have to be, taking all this time to babysit and make sure that your client is going to pay you. So 50% upfront really make sure that they have the money first and foremost to pay you. And then 50% upon delivery really helps too. But I also love having our freelancers add in a late fee clause. So if you're a week late, every week we add a couple percentage points to your payment because you shouldn't have to be going after this. Nobody else does it.
Is there a software that you particularly like using that for invoicing and bookkeeping?
Yeah, so QuickBooks is always very helpful for taxes and freelancers. I highly recommend, old school, but we also have been working on an invoicing software called Lumanu, and I've really loved working with them. And I know they have a lot of great features coming up too. So it's been very helpful.
I like that. I like the sound of
Yeah.
that. For someone who is kind of feeling like I've been consulting or I've been freelancing and I feel a little bit alone on the island, if you will, obviously if they,
Yeah.
what are there certain communities that obviously you have freelancing females, but are there other ones that you feel like, okay, if you do nothing else, like just join one of these? Because I know, I guess the pushback that I hear from a lot of people is, well, that's my competition. If I'm a copywriter, I don't
Yeah.
want to join a community of 200 other freelance copywriters because I don't want them stealing my secrets or
Hmm.
taking potential clients from me. How do you help people navigate those sort of tricky feelings, I guess?
Yeah, I would say, number one, to not be afraid of competition. I think there's a lot of great things that can come out of it. And for us, a lot of freelancers, talk about rates with each other. So everybody kind of understands their industry standards. And they have, if your friend is a copywriter and she's full with clients, she's going to refer them to you. So that's really helpful. Or kind of creating, freelance is very isolating. I totally understand that. That's why our Facebook group is so busy all the time, because they just want to know that there's people who are relating and dealing with the exact same things that we're dealing with. Crazy clients, all these questions. It's so nice to have somewhere to go that's relatable. And for me, like, I work from home too. Kim, you work from home too. And it's so nice to just reach out to somebody and grab a coffee or grab a lunch. It's really refreshing. You come out of it with a lot of really great ideas. You can commiserate on, what is happening in your world, and also celebrate the things that are happening in your world, because that's so very important to do as a freelancer. But the types of communities I would highly recommend, Facebook groups are so popular for freelancers. There's pretty much a freelance Facebook group for every niche that you're in. There's also freelance Facebook groups for, more generalized work, which is really great, because then you can kind of create a collective of freelancers who do different things. So say, you're a freelance photographer. Well, it'd be really great to know somebody who's a freelance artist and a freelance copywriter and a freelance marketer, so that whenever each one of you gain a new client, you have people to refer to, and they can refer back to you also.
I also think that's a huge advantage for clients. If clients can have you as sort of a one-stop shop. I mean, I even know some freelancers that I rely on where I say, oh, great, do you know a web designer? Oh, great,
Right.
do you know a copywriter? Oh, great, do you? And if I can just keep going to one person and it keeps me off of, 16 emails or 5 DMs, I love that personally. I'm like, great, a one-stop shop, win.
Yep. And you can either have, a referral thing that you've decided on between friends, or just have it as something nice to have. But I've also seen women who have created collectives around, just in Austin, there's like an artist collective here, or there's a wedding collective in California where there's photographer, florist, everything. And these women just refer each other out for those weddings that they're working on. And it's so very helpful, because then you're not going to run around trying to find clients everywhere. And once your client knows that they trust you, they usually trust the rest, which is very great.
Yeah, I feel like any sort of Facebook group, to Ellen's point and your point, Tia, is going to be so valuable for creating these collectives, meeting these other people that you can refer work to and from. It's going to be massive. I love Giacomo's sort of futurist thinking here, which is, where do you see the future of freelancing going now that you do have sort of all this fresh blood, fresh meat, fresh people joining the freelancing movement? Where do you see the freelancing industry in the next 2 or 3 years?
I think it's going to be a much bigger way of life. For one, it's, 5 years ago, I wouldn't say that we didn't realize how much the pandemic would have changed the freelance world, and how much it accelerated it also. But one of the things is, we're fighting for a lot of laws right now. Like in New York, they just passed the Freelance Isn't Free Act, which is hugely helpful for people who don't get paid on time or don't get paid by their clients. And I think that's one of the biggest things, is really, seeing freelance as a form of business, and it becoming a more serious form of business in the future. And a lot of companies before saw freelancers as, I hire somebody for, less pay. And that is not the case. Our freelancers are very good at their very specific jobs. So now I've seen a mind shift where people are now hiring their freelancers because they need an expert in that category. And I love that because that's exactly what it should be.
Yeah, they're bringing in the experts. They're bringing the people that are super niche and they're not generalist. They're experts in a very specific area. I'm really excited to sort of use these speed round questions to legitimately just straight up copy everything that you're doing. So I hope you're okay with that.
Yeah. Speed round is fun. I love that.
What is something that you have been doing or using lately that you really, really love? It could be for work or for just something in life.
Yes. Okay. So I have dove so very deep into using Notion. It is my favorite project management platform. We run pretty much our whole company off of it. We can share specific pages with partnerships and clients we're working on, so they have a huge overview. It has pretty much taken my brain and everything that's always going around in it and put it into a great place where organization is. It has changed our business, I would say, and it's so helpful if you do have a team or clients to really keep yourself organized. We've used Asana, we've used Airtable, we've used everything. Notion has been our favorite so far, and as we start working with other clients and freelancers, it's just been a huge help in that. So Notion, anybody who wants to learn Notion, I highly recommend it.
And do you have templates in Notion that you bought, or did you build your own?
So we've built a lot of our own. I also have a friend in Austin, Jules Acree. She has some really great Notion templates for business owners. I highly recommend that. And Notion, you can also search templates and search people who have created specific templates for what you're looking for. So it's really helpful. And then you can kind of base it off of that. So now I have a really great project draft every time we have a new project. That's very helpful. I have our entire team. Everybody has their own hub. And then any large campaign we share with our potential client. So that's all in there and organized. It's a really great system.
It sounds like, I know we talked about it offline, but I really need to get into it because you've just been one of many people who have just been telling me, oh my gosh, it was game changer and it was so great. So I need to just jump on the bus.
We'll have a lunch day and put together your Notion. Yeah.
Need to get on my Notion. What is the next thing that you're really eager to learn about? It could be, again, something work related. I want to learn about Bitcoin, or it could be just something fun related. I want to learn a language or something like that.
Oh yeah, it's so fun. One of the next ways we're leveling up here is email funnels, so that if anybody has any great recommendations on learning email funnels, or there's a freelancer in here, let me know. That's the next thing we're diving into a lot for work. And then for fun, just gonna plan a vacation. I'll learn more about the next place we're going.
Exactly. It's just like, I want to go. I don't know where I'm going.
I saw you just went on a really beautiful vacation, and I'm very jealous of it.
I took my mom to San Diego. It was so much fun.
Oh, nice.
We had the best time. Speaking of moms, they're pretty great. And it was just Mother's Day. But who are some people that you like to follow on social media? So they're coming in your feed. Well, I guess it doesn't have to be people. It could be brands as well, or organizations that you just feel like, whether it's on Instagram or LinkedIn or Facebook, they just kind of light up your feed. Just everything they're doing, you're either learning or it's positive, and you just feel like, oh, so glad this is in my feed today.
Besides your great reels and everything, I love Sprout Law. She is a trademark lawyer here in Austin. She has great education in terms of client contracts, trademarking your business, why it's so important, naming your business and what you should look out for, LLCs. I love that side of things. It's so important for your freelance business. So I would highly recommend that. I love following along on, some lighthearted content like Girls Night In. They have some really great content on like rest and relaxation, which is super important as a freelancer because, when you're working for yourself, you can work much more than a 9 to 5, but I highly recommend setting those boundaries and hours. And then, like I just recommended, Jules A. Cree, she's really great at productivity, simplifying your business. That's another great person to follow.
I have not followed any of those people, which is what I will be doing upon ending this, because that sounds amazing, especially the stuff around law and setting up your trademark and setting up, because let's be honest, like it's kind of the unsexy part, but it's like the stuff that you should probably be paying most attention to, because whether it's tax structure or whatever, you could have savings or optimizations that you're not even aware of if you don't do the kind of boring business part.
Yeah, it's so important. And, we even took a long time to trademark our business. And after seeing how simple the process is, I was like, why did we not do this sooner? I mean, you do have to save a couple $1,000s, but that is much more worth it than somebody naming their business the exact same name you have, trademarking it, and then you have to change everything for your business. You don't want to go through that whole rabbit hole of rebranding, renaming, all of that. So it really saves you a lot of time and hassle in the future. And she has some really great tips on why to name your business versus your name too.
I know that's a good one. I can't wait to kind of dig into that a little bit more. And I'm glad Anya reminded me, because you have been dropping so many good resources. If anybody wants a list of these resources, or you couldn't write as fast as Tia was saying them, you can go to sendmenotes.com and we will send you all the links and resources. So if you are listening to this or half listening to this while you're doing something else, you can go to sendmenotes.com and put in your email address, and we will send those notes to you with all of these resources linked, because we have been giving out a lot of them. So you can go to Send Me Notes, and that'll be an easy way to get them all sent to you.
I love that.
That's an easy one.
New resource.
Okay, we love homework around these parts, which I know is usually very strange to say, but it's true. We love us a good homework assignment. Yes. What would be something that you think that everyone who is listening or joining us today should do this week? It could be to read a certain book. It could be to subscribe to a certain newsletter. But what is something that you think all of us should do that will keep us just sort of on top of stuff?
Yeah, I would say, so I loved my mentor for this, and it was one of the best things that she kind of did for me. But one is to figure out your anagram, because it talks about, your strengths and your weaknesses, but also like how to take those weaknesses and turn them into strengths, which I really love as a business owner. You really need to understand how you like to work for yourself. And then second is creating a personal values doc for the year and refreshing it annually. I have, my personal values, and then I have my work values. And I go back to that document all the time when I'm making decisions to make sure that it's going towards what I'm reaching for, and it's going towards the goals that I'm hoping to set for myself and my business. So, if it doesn't go towards your values, that might not be the best client for you.
I'm so glad you brought up Enneagram. I don't know if Jen is still here, but it's something that she has really taught me so much about, because I do agree with you. Really knowing your weaknesses, at least for me, has been a huge eye opener and has really helped me restructure even with some of my consultancy work, really restructure myself and say, while somebody might want to pay me for XYZ, it doesn't actually align with what I'm good at. And I actually don't even really like it. So
Yeah.
even though it's exciting, like money, 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 if that's not really in alignment, which kind of goes to your second point of really having those values and being able to match them up, it's so important, because when you are freelancing or, consulting, or again, whatever you want to call it, it happened to me a couple weeks ago. It is so easy to get overly
To say
excited
yes.
and to like buy into the
Mhm.
dream. And you're like, oh, but it's so much money. And it's going to be great. And it's a
Yeah.
3-month project. And then when you really get quiet and you really look at your strengths and weaknesses, or you really look at your values, and you're like, it's not a fit. I must
Exactly.
walk away. It's not a fit.
Yep.
And that's hard.
It's so hard, especially when money is on the table, but it really leaves it open for those clients who are going to light you up and also pay you even more in the future. So I love it. And it's also very helpful in terms of what you should outsource in your business.
I love that everyone is saying what Enneagram number they are. James is a 5. Ellen is a 4 with a heavy 5 wing. I actually don't know my wings. Now I'm, oh no. Enneagram 2 from Jeff. But what is yours, Tia?
I need to refresh it because I feel like it's changed a little bit, but I'm a 2.
Same.
Yeah, see?
I think I'm a
This is
2
why we get along.
or a 3. Which one is
Well,
the
maybe you
entrepreneur?
have a wing.
I think I have a wing. I think that's what it is. I think I'm a little bit of both of those together, if I'm remembering correctly. But I mean, it's just such a valuable exercise. I agree with
really
you. I'd
is.
highly recommend that everybody do it this week if you haven't done it already, or do it again. Look at me. I need a refresher.
And making your values doc. And that can
100%.
be as simple as like confidence, accessibility, education, balance, and then just defining what each of those mean to you.
Exactly. Okay, where can people keep learning from you, following you, getting more resources and tips? Which social media platform is the best bet for them?
Yeah, so freelancingfemales.com is where everything is, our rate sheet, our directory, our, all of our information. If you email any of the emails, you're going to get to me. So I am there and happy to chat and help. Instagram at Freelancing Females. And then we also just launched a podcast for the love of freelance to really dive deeper into all of the aspects that you need on freelancing.
Oh, I love it. Well, Tia, this has been so much fun.
It's so much
Thank you,
fun.
thank you. I
Thanks for
appreciate
having
it.
me.
And everyone who's joining today, please go follow Tia on all of the things you have: Instagram, Facebook, all of the places. Just across the board, go do it. But thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. Thank you to everybody for being so active in the chat and asking questions. It was a lot of fun.
So much fun. Thank you, everybody, for joining. And I will see you next Wednesday at 1 p.m. Eastern, same time, same place. Until then, do your homework, and I will see you so soon. Have a great week, everybody.
Bye, everyone.